Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Team Kentucky update. We have a lot of different pieces to cover today, but let's start off with an economy that remains on fire. Numbers in from December. Unemployment continues to go down, and employment continues to rise. Kentucky's seasonally adjusted preliminary December 2020 unemployment rate fell to 3.9%, according to the Kentucky Center for Statistics. That is down 0.2% from November 2021 and down 1.7% from December of 2020. The U.S. seasonally adjusted jobless rate is also 3.9%. Not just unemployment going down, but employment going up. The number of people employed in December in Kentucky increased by 8,105, while the number of unemployed decreased by 2,854. Kentucky's seasonally adjusted non-farm employment grew by 8,300 jobs in December compared to November, and non-farm employment was up 61,500 jobs, or 3% compared to the same time last year. These are all things that we want to see, not just unemployment going down, but more people getting back into the workforce. It continues to show really good movement and a vibrant rebound from the impacts of COVID-19. In that same vein, one of the things we're really proud of, but we're also very intentional about, is ensuring that we are creating jobs of the future, that we are on the cutting edge, that the jobs we bring in are going to be here for 40 or 50 years and not just chasing jobs of the past. When you look at things like electric vehicles and batteries, when you look at agriculture technology, when you look at the recycled paper mill technology and others, Kentucky is becoming a true leader in the jobs of tomorrow. So, to continue that, we formed a regional hydrogen hub work group to develop projects eligible for federal funding. We're going to be working to educate Kentuckians and industry groups about economic development opportunities around hydrogen production, transportation, delivery, and end use. The future of hydrogen in Kentucky is exciting. So hydrogen can be produced from a variety of resources. It can be produced from coal, natural gas, nuclear power, biomass, and renewable power like solar. These qualities make it an attractive fuel option for transportation and electricity generation applications. It can be used in cars, in houses, for portable power, and many other applications. So Toyota Motor North America announced in August that it'll start making fuel cell modules for hydrogen-powered heavy trucks at the Georgetown plant in 2023, putting Kentucky in even a stronger position on this energy source, which is going to be a major source of the future. And approximately 65% of the nation's population lives within 600 miles of Kentucky, making it also a very positive development as we continue to work to increase both interest and productivity and production for our logistics industry. With our extensive freight and pipeline network and underground storage areas, we, Kentucky, have the energy infrastructure to support or expand hydrogen production, distribution, and transportation. We're just getting started along this exciting path that could intersect with our automotive, aviation, and chemical manufacturing base, which means we also have end users and customers that could reduce their carbon footprint, burn their energy more cleanly, and ultimately move into the future with this as a potential answer. Our first work group's organizational meeting will be held virtually on January 28th at 10 a.m. Couple quick updates on COVID. Omicron is continuing to spread at a rapid rate. We've had over 10,000 plus cases, certainly the last several days. We expect this week to probably be our highest week ever, but as we reported on Tuesday, our hope is that we're within a couple weeks of peaking. And when you look at what's happened in states like New York and where we are compared to where they are, it's certainly our hope that we will see declining cases in the next week in a half to 2 weeks. That's incredibly important. With a positivity rate that's above 30% right now, everybody needs to be really careful. And as we'll show you, hospitalizations continuing to go up, which is of great concern, not just to those with COVID, but anyone who would need emergency or other services. But first, as a reminder, every home in the country is now able to order 4 at-home COVID-19 tests. They are completely free. Tests are available through order of the United States Postal Service at covidtests.gov. These are rapid antigen at-home tests which can be taken anywhere and provide results in 30 minutes. I encourage everyone, order your tests right now so you can have them when you need them. Federal government says that orders will normally ship between 7 and 12 days from when your order is placed. You're encouraged to take an at-home test if you begin having COVID symptoms. At least 5 days after you come in close contact with someone that has COVID. When you're going to gather with a group of people, especially those who are at risk. And remember, testing is one step and only one step to protect yourself. Best step, getting vaccinated and boosted. Wearing a well-fitted mask when gathering indoors, and continuing to wash your hands often and practice social distancing. Some good news on the vaccination front. We continue to have Kentuckians, at least 1,000 plus, every single day, making the decision to get vaccinated. So as we look at our demographic breakdown, we, again, over 63% of every man, woman, and child, nearly 2/3 of all Kentuckians, whether eligible or not, have gotten at least one shot. But now, of the total number eligible, that's 5 and up, it's gone up a percentage to 68%. That's a big deal when we move up 1 full point of everyone who is eligible. Again, the number that in the past we would have been incredibly proud of. Total for 18 years and up, making your own healthcare decisions, 3/4. And we've never vaccinated this much of our population, or this much of our population that can make their own healthcare decisions in this rapid of a time frame. So again, we should be proud that we've been able to accomplish what's never been accomplished, but knowing that it's going to take even more. Of the other areas that have gone up a point, 50 to 64-year-olds, we are now up to 81%. That's pretty important because that demographic makes up more of the deaths by percentage since vaccinations than before. That's because if you look, the 65 and up is so heavily vaccinated. And then the 12 to 15-year-olds have gone up 1 point to 47%. 5 to 11-year-olds still way too low. Please get your child vaccinated. It's safe. This vaccine has gone into hundreds of millions of people under more scrutiny than ever in the history of the world. It is safe. It is preventing serious illness. Please get vaccinated. One reason to get vaccinated is to make sure there is a bed at a hospital for someone who is in a car wreck, has a heart attack, has a stroke, or otherwise needs care. Because if we continue to look at our inpatient census for Kentucky hospitals, it continues to go up. We are getting close to the levels of Delta hospitalization when we were overrun. We are struggling in that hospital capacity, and we need everybody's help. If you get vaccinated and if you get boosted, your chances of being in the hospital are incredibly low. So if for no other reason, do it for that person who, through potentially no fault of their own, has an injury where they need a lot of help. Let's also very quickly look at age and vaccination status of COVID-19 deaths. So on Tuesday, when I read 5 days of cases and deaths, as you all have noticed, the number of people dying in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s has increased over time. And it's almost entirely, if not entirely, unvaccinated individuals. So when we look at this chart, statistically, if you are below the age of 60, if you have been vaccinated, COVID is not going to kill you. I mean, there is, from a statistical standpoint, almost everyone under 60 that has passed away from COVID has been unvaccinated. And those numbers are increasing of people who have died in those age groups, especially if you are under 60. This is the key to surviving this challenge, this pandemic of our times. It could not be any clearer the level of protection it provides to those individuals. It also can't be clearer, whether it's 60 to 69 or 70 plus, how much more protected that you are if you get vaccinated, given that you are more susceptible to a bad outcome in general based on age and other factors. Getting vaccinated, regardless of your age group, provides significant protection and almost 100% protection if you are under a certain age group. So every death, nearly every death of every Kentuckian under 60, at least since we've had vaccines, has been preventable. And that's what this chart shows, basically, since people had the opportunity to get vaccinated and fully vaccinated. All right, a couple of updates on tornado and tornado relief. First, incredibly important, the FEMA deadline for people to file, whether they're homeowners or renters that have sustained damage, is February 11th, 2022. We need everybody who has been damaged because of the tornadoes to file their FEMA claim by February 11th, 2022. You'll need to do that to qualify for help from FEMA. It's also how you get help from the Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund. FEMA disaster survivor assistance teams are still canvassing neighborhoods, interacting with residents to help them to apply for assistance. Disaster recovery centers and mobile registration intake centers are also up, and they provide one-on-one assistance, which is important because some people are getting denied due to errors in their applications. Since December 12th, FEMA and the Commonwealth have operated 18 disaster recovery centers in the areas affected in Western Kentucky. Here are the expected schedules with the deadline coming up for 6 mobile disaster recovery centers. They each run from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. local time. First, in Ohio County, Friday, January 21st, and Saturday, January 22nd. It's at the Community Center and / Justice Department on East Washington. Please, if you are having trouble with your FEMA claim in Ohio County, go. In Lyon County, Friday, January 21st to Tuesday, January 25th, with the exception of that Sunday, at the Old Convention Center. In Logan County, Tuesday, January 25th, and Wednesday, January 26th, at the County Extension Office. Following recovery centers open at 8 a.m. Monday on the 24th and will close at the end of Tuesday. Taylor County at the Old Firehouse, Barron County at the Cave City Police Department, Marion County on North Spalding Street. And again, it's really important that we not only get your claim in, but get it right. And these one-on-one opportunities at the intake centers are a way to do that. It's also important to make sure you get that filed because of the way the Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund works. First, we have finished providing payments to every family that has lost a loved one, 77 Kentuckians that have been lost, to cover funeral expenses. We were able to reach out directly, and 100% of those funds have now been expended. We announced earlier that we believe that we would be able to provide 10% on top of any FEMA award, though it can't be spent for the same things that the FEMA award covers, for all uninsured homeowners and renters. Today, I'm able to announce that we're going to be able to do 20% on top of any FEMA award for uninsured homeowners and renters. What we believe is that within the next 2 weeks, we're going to be able to reach out to the group that has already been approved in this area for FEMA help. It's roughly 1,400 Kentuckians. So again, the process is you need to go through FEMA. They're the ones that verify that you have been harmed. So we make sure every dollar coming out of the relief fund goes to somebody that's entitled to it. and was hurt. That gives us 100% assurance that the dollars are getting to families that have been impacted. So thus far, right around 1,400 Kentuckians have registered with FEMA. They have been provided at least some level of an award, and we know through their paperwork that they're uninsured homeowners or renters. We expect the payments going out in the first part of this to be about $1.4 million, which means we're going to be able to expand this program to other areas that we'll be announcing as we move forward. We will be providing this help in ways that work with groups that already authenticate, like FEMA does, that folks have been harmed, so that we can first assure that dollars are going to the right place, and second, that we don't give somebody yet another application process where they have to tell yet another person about the significant loss that they have been through. There's already 3 or 4 of those. This helps us to be efficient. Checks should go out within the next 2 weeks, but remember, this fund is not about the first 2 months or 3 months of recovery. It's really about month 6 through month 24 and providing help along the way until these folks can rebuild their lives. Breakdown of what we think we've got thus far: about 475 uninsured homeowners and 987 uninsured renters. That's so far. Those are those that have already qualified through FEMA. Some continue going through the process, and we'll get to them once they are approved. So with all that, apply for FEMA if you suffered any damage from the storms. I'm now going to turn it over to our Lieutenant Governor, who's got some more tornado updates, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about the weather. We'll honor a great Kentuckian, and then I'm sure there are a couple questions, all of which will be on our hydrogen working group.
Thank you, Governor. So keeping in on the theme of the tornadoes that affected the far west part of Kentucky, immediately following those tornadoes about a month ago, the governor established the Governor's Agriculture Working Group. And we have communicated directly with all of Kentucky's commodity groups, USDA representatives, and cooperative extension. Through these meetings, our team has been able to better assess the needs of the farmers in the impacted counties. And we have been in communication regarding these assessments with U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack's office. I'm happy to announce today that Secretary Vilsack has signed a secretarial disaster designation for the following counties: Adair, Allen, Barron, Butler, Casey, Edmondson, Grayson, Greene, Hart, LaRue, Logan, Marion, Simpson, Taylor, and Warren. These counties are considered primary natural disaster areas for agriculture. The secretarial disaster designation will expand resources available for ag producers in these counties as we work together to rebuild these operations. As of Tuesday, the USDA has released a new program for farmers to rebuild and repair permanent fencing through the Emergency Conservation Program and the Farm Service Agency. Here in Kentucky, we are very fortunate to now have Dean Shamor as our new USDA Farm Agency State Director. So Dean is joining us today via video.
Hello, my name is Dean Shamor, your new State Executive Director of the Farm Service Agency in Kentucky. I was appointed earlier this month by Secretary of Agriculture Vilsack and President Biden. I spent 6 years in the U.S. military serving in the Gulf War and served 6 years in the Kentucky General Assembly. I have brought that experience along with running multiple businesses over the course of 29 years with me to this job. As you all are aware, Kentucky experienced devastating tornadoes in December. The U.S. government, through the USDA, has programs targeted to help Kentucky farmers, which are a vibrant part of the success of not only their communities, but that of Kentucky and the United States of America. We have been approved for ECP, which stands for Emergency Conservation Program. The sign-up period started January 18th and will run for 45 days. We also have emergency loan funds available due to the recent tornadoes. Please call your local FSA office to see if you qualify for any assistance. Thank you for this opportunity for me to introduce myself to the people of Kentucky.
All right, so we want to thank Dean and his team, as well as Secretary Vilsack, for their continued support as we work together to rebuild. And now for a little good news to share in Western Kentucky. Most of the schools across Kentucky are back in after their winter break, but that return to the classroom is a little bit more special in communities that were impacted by the tornadoes just over a month ago. So we wanted to share some photos of these special moments that you'll see. The governor and I have reiterated to those affected that we will all continue to stand by them and work with them as they rebuild their communities and their lives. As an example, last week, the governor signed House Bill 5 that assists students impacted by the tornadoes in December. This will provide $30 million to the affected school districts, and these funds will provide wraparound services for students and their families. And some examples of those are after-school services, extra tutoring, construction and repair of school buildings, and mental health counseling. You could see one of the pictures, I think this one right here, that we had an elementary school bring a therapy dog for its students to utilize, and that is such a great idea. So we are so glad to have all of these students back in the classroom and want them to know that we are all rooting for them. And last but not least, we have one of the highlights of the governor's budget proposal, and it was to fully fund preschool for every 4-year-old in the state. And as the resident teacher around here, as the governor likes to say, and as the mom of an almost 2-year-old, here are the top 4 reasons that we need preschool for every 4-year-old in Kentucky. First, pre-K provides a strong foundation for our littlest learners. Only about 30% of 4-year-olds in Kentucky are enrolled in preschool. That means that up to 70% of our kids are behind before they walk in the door for their first day of kindergarten. By funding pre-K for every 4-year-old in the state, not only are we giving our kids the best start, but we are also upholding our constitutional duty to provide a system of common schools that are adequate and equitable. It is a commitment to ensuring that a child's zip code or socioeconomic status does not predetermine their educational outcomes. Number 2, pre-K provides a substantial cost savings to our families. A major reason that only 30% of 4-year-olds are enrolled in pre-K in Kentucky is because of the cost. Preschool or childcare can range from anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 a year. Beyond families, there is also a significant cost savings for the state. Economists from the University of Kentucky estimate that for every dollar that we invest in pre-K, there is a $5 return, and that is one heck of a return on investment. Number 3, pre-K will promote immediate and long-term academic success. The research is overwhelming, but let's take a look at one example. In 1998, Oklahoma became the second state to offer pre-K universally. 24 years later, here's what we know. This group of kids was less likely to fall behind grade level. They showed higher academic scores in areas that are usually areas of struggle, like math, and they were more likely to take honors classes. Right now in Kentucky, only 51% of Kentucky kids are kindergarten ready. And only 50% of Kentucky students are ready to pursue a post-secondary degree or certificate upon high school graduation, proving that when you start behind the 8 ball, you stay behind the 8 ball. Universal pre-K is the best way to ensure high school seniors graduate ready for college and for the workforce. And number 4, pre-K will provide an immediate and long-term boom to our workforce. For context, let's look at what happened to our nation's workforce when we instituted public kindergarten. Reuters studied the effect that kindergarten had on our nation's workforce for 40 years, from 1950 to 1990, and they found that over 40% of single mothers joined the workforce when their child reached school age. Elizabeth Cascio, an economics professor at Dartmouth, said it is indisputable that universal pre-K will provide an incentive for a parent who is not working to join the workforce. During the pandemic, women left the workforce in droves. Our country and our Commonwealth learned what us moms have always known, which is how critically important childcare and early childhood education is to our economy. So by providing universal pre-K, we ensure that working moms, especially those who live in childcare deserts, have options that help them return to the labor force. The list goes on, but these are the top 4 reasons that we need pre-K for all 4-year-olds in Kentucky. This is our opportunity for transformational change across the Commonwealth. And with this game-changing investment, we can turn 2 years of progress into 20 years of prosperity. So I encourage you to reach out to your elected leaders and make your voices heard on this critical issue. Urge them to follow the governor's lead and provide universal pre-K to every 4-year-old in Kentucky. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Governor Beshear.
Thank you. Universal pre-K is not only one of the major steps we can take to remain on top, to increase our workforce, to create the most educated workforce, to give our kids that much more opportunity, but it's the right thing to do. Let's help our families. If you think, I heard the other day that comprehensive tax reform will get people back into the workforce. This is a savings of $12,000 for many families, in addition to having the time to get into the workforce. That is going to financially help those families more than any other plan, and it's going to make sure that we continue to fill these great jobs that we're creating. Report from the Transportation Cabinet. Let's start with the different conditions that we have seen. In northeastern Kentucky, plow trucks are working snowy roads. Snowiest, slickest roads were along south of I-64, less snow towards the Ohio River. 3 to 4 inches came down in Bath, Rowan, Elliott, and Boyd counties. Main roads are passables. Back roads and bridges still covered. Pavement temperatures are at the freezing mark. Those are ideal conditions for black ice. So if you are in that area of northeastern Kentucky, be careful. In eastern Kentucky, all 10 counties of the Jackson District are plowing and salting. With daylight, crews were able to get beyond the main roads to begin treating routes. Most counties measured under 1 inch of accumulation. Lexington areas, most counties of the Lexington District were working routes. Louisville area, contractor plow crews were released not long after midnight. KYTC crews stayed for black ice and slick areas, but most roads are dry. Bowling Green, crews worked all night salting and plowing. The crews are completing routes and getting released as they finish. Roads are generally in good shape. In far western Kentucky, we continue plowing this morning as sunrise brought enough of a temperature increase to maximize the effectiveness of salt and ice-fighting chemicals. Motorists should continue to use caution in those areas. And finally, today, it's my honor to recognize a special Kentuckian who made history in our state and changed history too. Coach Joby Hall from Cynthiana, Kentucky, created his own legacy at the University of Kentucky, bringing home another national championship and coaching his team to 3 Final Fours. Coach Hall was one of only 3 men to both play and coach on an NCAA championship team. They were 30 years apart, and he was the only coach to do so for the same school. His other firsts include hiring Leonard Hamilton, the program's first African-American assistant coach. He also played a large role in the integration of African-American student athletes into UK's program. Later in life, he showed that we are all one Team Kentucky. He worked with his former rival, Louisville head coach Denny Crum, on a radio sports show for more than a decade. Coach Hall continued to mentor UK basketball players on and off the court. He often attended practices and could usually be seen sitting courtside at Rupp Arena. He was also a friend to my parents and a friend to my family, and he was an incredibly nice, wonderful human being. He died on January 15th at 93. There's no question, and in basketball and life, he left it all on the court. Coach Cal called him an icon in our state and in our profession. And he said, quote, "Coach Hall is beloved by everyone. What makes me happy on this extremely somber day is that before he left this earth, he knew how much all of us appreciated and loved him." That's well said by by Coach. Today, we're going to celebrate him just a little bit more. I'm now proud to sign a proclamation recognizing Joe B. Hall Day in the Commonwealth. Fly high, Coach. And with that, we'll open it up to questions. We'll start with those that are here with Karen.
Governor, can you talk about your decision to veto the redistricting bills and your response to Speaker Osborne, who said the maps meet all legal constitutional requirements?
I vetoed the maps because I believe that they are unconstitutional and a clear example of political gerrymandering. I believe that voters should choose their elected representatives. Elected representatives should not choose their voters. And I believe that we can veto things and they can pass things while still acting like adults. And I hope that the comments that we provide while taking whatever steps we can continue to be adults, and none of us sound like the former governor. Carolina.
Governor, can you go into some specific issues that you found with the maps?
We put some of the specific issues within the veto statements themselves, splitting of some northern Kentucky counties, of Warren County, certainly what was done within Louisville. I think to put two individuals against each other, they actually jumped the Watterson for one neighborhood, jumping over an interstate. But we believe that it was very clearly a political gerrymander. Louisville Urban League believes that it lessens minority voices and votes. And because of that, I think that they should do it again. Or in the very least, there should be an opportunity for it to be heard in court. Joe. Oh, we got Mark too.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if Joe Sonk was here either.
No.
But, so as far as the redistricting bills, I've got a couple questions. One, Senate Bill 2, the Kentucky Senate map. Where are your thoughts at that bill specifically? I know there was nothing posted last night. And you talked about possible action in court on the other redistricting bills. Do you specifically plan to pursue any legal action if these bills are considered to be overrun?
As governor, I won't be a named plaintiff in any legal action. I'm still reviewing the Senate map, certainly less egregious than the congressional and the House map, but still reviewing it at this point. Mark.
We're hearing about 3 potential lawsuits from other parties on the House, Senate, and congressional maps. You know, you're an attorney. What do you think the chances are that those lawsuits will succeed in the courts, and on what merits do you think they'll succeed?
The question is if there is litigation, and Mark's heard about more litigation than I have, so I may have questions for you too. What's my belief as a now non-practicing attorney with a license that is frozen, so none of this is legal advice? I believe that we have seen many successful challenges, whether it's Ohio, North Carolina, or others. I think one of the basic tenets in every state constitution is, one person, one vote. And there comes a time where if things are gerrymandered too much, that an individual really doesn't have the same voice and the same vote as others. I believe that ultimately that these districts ought to be drawn by nonpartisan groups, not Democrats, not Republicans. But I believe courts are going to have to look very closely and carefully at it. When you look at what courts have done, sometimes does it pass the eye test? I certainly think the congressional map, where the first district now goes from Fulton County on the Mississippi to right here in Frankfort. Real challenge to see how one congressman or woman should represent both of those areas, and the way it cut through Anderson County just to get to Franklin County, and not to have Anderson County, again, doesn't pass the eye test. Compare the Supreme Court map, which I signed, with the congressional map, and I think you see the difference. You really have to get down in the numbers on the House maps, but we think that there are certainly areas that are severely problematic. Now, I mean, if the two parties could sit down and talk, I think I think there are changes that could ultimately get it to a more constitutional place. Austin.
Thank you, Governor. What do you make of the Republican bill that could push back the filing deadline to the 31st from the primary to August?
I saw the bill filed that would push back the filing deadline, and I want to think about it a little bit more. I understand the overall reasoning and that you want to know what the districts are going to be. I worry a little bit about how short the primary is, just for an opportunity to inform voters, but at least I know where they're coming from. I'm not sure I necessarily agree on the timing set out in it, but that's something I'd want to talk with, is it Representative Miller?
Yep.
About. Al Cross, Kentucky Health News.
Thank you, Governor. The governor of New Mexico has asked National Guard members and state employees to volunteer as substitute teachers because they're so short of teachers due to the pandemic. What information do you have about the teaching workforce in Kentucky, and would you consider making Guard members substitute teachers?
Well, right now we've got over 440 National Guardsmen in our hospitals, and that required us to go beyond volunteers because the Guard has been stretched so thin, and they just, of course, came off deployment from the tornadoes in Western Kentucky. So right now, I do not foresee using our Guard in that manner. Certainly, our teacher workforce was already at a challenging place. That's why in our budget, we have 5% raises for them. And we also have a loan forgiveness program because you need both competitive pay to get people into it, but then you got to keep them there. And without pensions for new teachers, there is no retention benefit whatsoever. But COVID and Omicron is just so contagious, and it moves through certainly places of high density and especially districts that aren't doing universal masking. Even if we had the Guard in, it'd be incredibly hard to have enough uninfected adults there to teach our children. I would also want to give a real long look before I considered that about the quality of the instruction, even if it's remote, but it is a trained, certified teacher, as opposed to bringing somebody in who hasn't filled that role, that is unfamiliar with not the subject, but the different resources and the different exercises that they're doing. I mean, I remember having substitute teachers that would come in and teach, and I remember having substitute teachers that came in so there was an adult in the room. I want to make sure our kids are getting the very best instruction, and for my kids that they're actually doing something, whether that is remote or in person. But to go back to the beginning, I do not anticipate using the Guard in that manner because they're already stretched so thin. Debbie Yetter from the Courier-Journal.
Hi, Governor. Does Kentucky, or do you all have any information yet on how people may obtain the masks that the Biden administration has said it's going to make available through pharmacies?
We do not have information yet on the mask program from the Biden administration. I believe what they're trying to do is to make sure people get a more effective mask, given the aggressiveness of Omicron and how it spreads. Certainly a KN95 mask, an N95 mask, or one step below, a surgical mask, provide more protection than others. But I think we also have to temper that with any mask is better than no mask. And so making sure that we encourage people to wear the very best one that they're willing to, but we can take what we can get is the best approach right now. I think for our residents and I think for other states too. Isaiah Kim Martinez.
Yes, thank you, Governor. I just wanted to ask, with regards to House Bill 2 and your message there, you used the words dilute the voices of certain minority communities. Can you go deeper into where you get that from and what people are we talking about here? What do you mean?
Well, there have been some analysis that's been done by outside groups that believe that the redistricting bill lessens the voice, especially of African-American Kentuckians. The Louisville Urban League has serious concerns about that as well. Certainly, it appears in the city of Louisville that it tries to cut up the cities in ways that either push districts out and or lessen the impact and or numbers of minorities in specific districts. I think it's a real concern, and I think that we have a duty to ensure those that have been left out far too often, that have been discriminated against in voting, that through our history originally could not vote, and then faced all types of obstacles, that we don't use redistricting as another tool to lessen the influence, again, of folks who are left out far too often. Stu Johnson, WEKU.
Thank you, Governor. With the positivity rate around 30%, do you think anything different should be done in terms of COVID precautions for legislative hearings and on the floor?
Yes, I think everybody should be wearing a mask. I think a ton of legislators have had COVID in the last week or so, based on the numbers of folks that are voting remotely, based on them having to take a day off from the General Assembly because so many people had COVID. I mean, dear Lord, put on a mask if you know a bunch of people around you have COVID. It's just basic protections. We don't have to be tougher than the person next to us. Nobody is watching us to see how scared or not scared that we are. This isn't some test of masculinity. I mean, it is a virus. Wear a mask. It protects you, but hey, if you've got it, even if you don't know it, if you want to spread it to the person next to you that might have a terrible reaction to it, it'd be terrible to be in the legislature and to lose a seatmate to your right or to your left. We also have testing available here at the Capitol for them every day if they want the opportunity. And if they're unwilling to wear a mask, at least get tested every day so you know that you're not potentially exposing the people around you. But remember, if the person next to you hasn't been tested, you need to wear a mask to make sure you have all of that protection. We've worn masks in the executive branch here in the Capitol, and while some people have gotten COVID, we have not had the major outbreak that I think they're seeing on the legislative side. That's because masks work. All right, that is today's Team Kentucky update. We will have a COVID update coming up on Monday. Again, we think we are a week and a half to 2 weeks to seeing the peak of Omicron. Please protect yourself during that period, and know it's going to be a couple weeks where there's still going to be a whole lot after that, even if the numbers are going down. Thanks.